Good evening. I'm Amy Narishkin. I'm CEO of Empowering Partners, and I write 1,400-word blog every month. You can check out my website. And I got up here on Monday with this beautiful group of people who showed up to practice, and I read my 1,400 words, and I got, good story. Cut it back. Okay, so I've got it down to 943. So I'm thinking maybe less is more. So I'm going with that. Here's my story. Cultural intelligence takes a quiet tenacity. When you're talking with someone who seems different, you can feel tongue-tied, awkward, uncomfortable. That's certainly the way I felt when I entered the church fairgrounds on that late August day years ago. The Word of Life Christian Church in North City, St. Louis was hosting their annual church fair and school supply giveaway event. And with all the hustle and bustle, I stood there in the middle of the parking lot, quietly wondering, what can I, a white woman in an all-black neighborhood, possibly have to offer this event? Sure, I was a member of the church, but not everybody at the event knew that I was a member or even knew me. When my husband Cyril and I arrived, our fellow church members were in full swing setting up chairs, tables, grills, tents. And after we greeted and hugged on everyone, Cyril jumped right in and started helping with the setup. I'm a bit more reserved. While I was wondering in that quiet moment what to do, it occurred to me that whatever I did, it would be good to sit down and not stand over people. I said to myself, okay, then where? That's when I saw my buddy Jonathan at the entrance, acting as a one-man welcoming committee. He was standing by the card table with 2 chairs provided for visitors to sit down and complete a short questionnaire. That's where I could sit. I went over and sat down and watched how Jonathan so easily engaged with folks, clapping shoulders and shaking hands. He knew the language of the community and shared their skin color. Since Jonathan and I often spar and chat it up, it felt natural to help him with greeting. So I stayed there, seated at the table. It wasn't long before I noticed fellow moms who had come for school supplies join me at the table. Because I was sitting down, I noticed pretty quick I was at kid eye level. I got to talk with their children, ask their names and tell them mine. I learned what they thought of school, and the little ones tended to enjoy school. Yeah, but the teens were either proud of their efforts or kind of frustrated with the system. As a mom and teacher, I could relate. I shared stories about my own kids' struggles with school and tips for navigating the system. But most of all that day, I was doing some deep listening, giving them eye contact and affirming their experience. From the little ones, I'd get a hug, and sometimes we just held hands and giggled. And the teens would chat me up and laugh about their experiences. Well, as an educator, I'd heard that kids in the city don't always start school the first day of classes. I didn't know why, but it didn't seem right. It made me sad to think that kids would start the school year off already behind. But that day at the table, I left my assumptions at the gate. Since the first day of school had been 3 days earlier, I asked one little girl how her first days went. And she said she hadn't started school yet. Her mom, who was sitting with me at the table, looked up and told me she'd lost her job as a nursing assistant. She didn't have money for her daughter's school uniform. I said, I get it. I'd want my child looking prepared for school. She visibly relaxed. Jonathan overheard the conversation and offered to connect her with a friend who's a nurse, see if he could help her find a job. I told her she still wanted that uniform. Church was across the street. Jonathan pointed to the door. At first, my sitting there at the table seemed insignificant, but I slowly began to see the value of it. Just sitting there communicated, I'm listening up, not down to you, and we're in no rush. You matter. I could see how the impact of waiting and allowing people to reveal themselves in their needs, in their time. This is how I discovered this real need for a quiet tenderness and tenacity. Another mom came through the gate with her 3 children, a son and 2 daughters. The daughters launched into telling me all about school. As we chatted, I noticed their brother was kind of quiet, stoic. I asked him, "How's school going?" He looked down and quietly shook his head. His mom said, "He hasn't started yet. He has developmental delays. I'm worried he'll be bullied. I haven't been able to get off work to meet with his teachers." I said, "I understand. We need our kids safe. I got children with learning disabilities. I like to meet with the teachers too. Do you mind if I ask you a question?" She said it was okay. I asked, "Does your son have an individualized educational plan or an IEP?" She nodded. I said, "With an IEP, you can ask to meet with a team of teachers before the school year starts when you're free." She said, I didn't know that. Thank you. Appreciate that." Then I turned to her son and I said, "That's got to be tough when you don't know what the other kids are up to." He nodded. I said, "You can ask your teachers for help. Most teachers really want to help." He looked up at me in the eyeballs and he smiled. Hearing people's stories that day was altogether kind of heart-wrenching and heartwarming. It's also a bit unnerving because you're not sure where these conversations are going to go. And that's particularly true when a person like me from a historically more powerful cultural group is attempting to connect with a person from a historically marginalized group. And this is the case for a white person talking with a black person, a man talking with a woman, an adult talking with a child. A culturally intelligent person who finds themselves in a situation where their color, generation, or gender puts them in a position where they are more powerful must double time their efforts to prove that they're trustworthy. And you come to realize it's not just you talking, but rather it's you and all that history behind you that are talking. So practicing and teaching cultural intelligence in corporate spaces, I've discovered 5 steps that I can use to feel free to talk and work with just about anyone. Check this. Number 1, slow down. Take a breath and hold your assumptions just a little more lightly or leave them at the gate. 2, check your intention. Is this person an object of your curiosity, or are you interested in developing a genuine human connection? You're going to need the latter for this kind of relationship. 3, be willing to let the conversation go. They may not want to talk. That's fine. 4, share something about yourself to show a little vulnerability. Then ask about them. And 5, listen and affirm their experience. Even if it's different from your own, it doesn't mean you agree. It just means you get it. It's with this quiet tenderness and tenacity that creates safe companies and safe communities where everyone feels like they belong.